Hey guys, welcome back to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. We are here today with the infamous Jasmine Womack. We're having her back for episode part 2 because so much has changed since the last time we talked. She's grown so much. Her brand has grown, her client testimonials, the people she's helped. I've been seeing it all online. So I was like, let me get Jasmine back to talk about how speakers can leverage their books and really the importance of books. Because I work with so many of you guys and you have books. But are they leveraged, right? That's what we're going to talk about today with Jasmine. And I'll also let her introduce herself. So Jasmine, welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, or welcome back, rather.
Yay. Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here.
Definitely. So we've had you on before. So if you have not already listened to her first episode, guys, that'll help. So go back and listen to the first episode. What's changed since then? How have you evolved? How have you, because I know you don't work with people the same way. I feel like so much has happened. So tell us about the evolution of your brand and how books have played a role in that for you.
Absolutely. So I believe that the last time when we spoke was like maybe when my first episode was in 2019, I believe. Yep. And so there have been a lot of changes. And so for those of you all who, haven't listened to the first episode, or maybe you did, but you just need a refresher. My name is Jasmine, and I work with coaches, speakers, consultants, agency owners, and professional service providers to help you quickly write a short book that is going to generate leads, help you establish your credibility, and take your clients from your book into your coaching programs on the back end. So I specifically, work with professionals to help you all write books that are going to make you money. So, so much has changed, Ashley, since we first chatted. One of which being that we've crossed the $1 million mark in our business and on track to do our first million this year. Thank you. So much. I think that at the time, I was doing great. I was doing good, but I think that there comes a point in time in business where you actually own what it is you do. Yeah. where it's like, okay, I'm doing this, and like I think I was still transitioning mentally from a 9 to 5. Like at that time, I had been in full-time entrepreneurship for 1 year, but now we're going on 4 years. And so the mindset is different. The mindset shifts are different, where it's like, you know what, this isn't part-time anymore. Like this is a full 7-figure business.
Yes. And that's so interesting because, or can you talk about the moment when you decided that there's no going back? Because I work with a lot of people who I think are at that point of like, this could work. I'm good at this. But to your point, there was a point for me where I was like, no, I'm great at this. This is where I'm stating my claim and it's Absolutely. Going to work. And the revenue is one piece of it, but to the mindset piece, how was that transition for you to deciding like, no, this is it. There is no looking back. There is no, it may work. Like, no, this is it.
You know what? Mindset is the biggest piece. And I think that people underestimate how important mindset is, or they feel like it's fluff when they hear it. But honestly, it's everything. With every new level that you go to, there's a different mindset that you have to adopt. There's a different person that you have to become. So even going from 100,000 to 250,000, going from 250 to 500,000, going from 500,000 to $1 million, and going $1 million beyond, because there are different things that are going to be required of you, and at each level. And I know, like for me, part of that transition was really owning my genius and saying, you know what, I'm not like everybody else. I don't want to be like everybody else. My clients are out here getting amazing results. So this isn't something that I'm tiptoeing around. It's not something that I'm trying. It's something that I do, and I do well. Yep. And I'm going to own that. I'm going to embrace that. And I think and that's where I was like the last year or so. But this year, at the beginning of the year, one of the things that I said to myself, I said, I'm not going to be the best kept secret anymore.
Yeah.
I knew that I was great. I was doing all these great things behind the scenes. And, I would market and do things like that. But I said, you know what? I'm going to share more. I'm going to share numbers. I'm going to share about what I'm doing. I'm going to share numbers behind what my clients are doing. I am going to let people know that I'm the stuff and you're missing out if you're not working with me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what was difficult about that for you?
I think that not even I think we are raised. Many of us are raised not to brag.
Yeah.
Or if you talk about yourself or talk about your accomplishments, you're bragging, so to speak. And I never wanted to be the person to brag and just talk about myself, which is why I share so much of what my clients are doing. At the same time, I had to realize that people were interested in me, especially with my journey from being a middle school teacher. And people were interested in seeing the progress that I was making from, when I was a sixth, seventh, or eighth grade classroom teacher to running a 7-figure business from my home. Yeah. And so it's I need to show that more, and I need to not be fearful or not be scared, because I would have people in my family calling me and saying, hey, don't share this, don't share that. It makes it seem like you're bragging, or don't talk about, how much money you're charging or how much money you made, because it seems like you're bragging, and, you also want to be safe because you have children. And it's just no, people need to know. People need to know, especially seeing a Black woman.
Yeah.
Making strides and doing things that traditionally we haven't done.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think I'm glad you talked about that, because I know there's people listening who are I think before you post something, sometimes there's this little voice in your head that's like, nobody cares. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the voice that stops people from sharing what they're eating in the morning or sharing how they move through life. And one thing about you, when I think about what you post and how you display your life and what you do, the word that comes to mind for me is discipline. And that's not, it looks sexy, watching it, it's dang, that looks good. But in practice, it's very hard to be disciplined. It's very hard to be consistent, and people admire that. So how did you build your discipline? Because I feel like building a 7-figure business in less than 4 years is for sure an accomplishment. I heard a stat that says most people do it and it takes 7 years, if ever. So that's well above average. What was the discipline that was required for that? Because that's the stuff that people, I think, want to avoid. But I'd love to hear your
That's such a great question. And I'm so glad that you asked that, because the discipline that I display now started 10 years ago.
Yes.
The discipline that I display now started before I ever thought, it started before I created this business. And so the discipline that I have now really took roots when during my first divorce. So back in 2012, I gotten divorced. I had been married for 10 months, literally 10 months. And I had gotten divorced, but I had a brand new baby. So I was like a newlywed, a divorcee, and a new mom all in the same year.
Oh my goodness.
And the world that I had built crashed. It totally crumbled. And I was in a space where I never saw myself. Here I was, this pretty high achieving person, had always done well in school, had a career, I own my own home, had a BMW. I was, doing the things, that mothers want for their daughters to do.
Yeah.
But I was not making wise decisions in the area of love and romance and in some other areas of my life. And so I got married to someone that I had all the signs not to marry, but we got married. And when we got married, I was 6 weeks pregnant. And a week after we got married, hell broke loose. And it was it is what it is what it is. And so I don't take responsibility for what the things he did, but I take full responsibility for my lack of wisdom at that time, acting on what I knew, acting the opposite of what I knew. And so, with every action, there's a consequence. And one of those consequences with me marrying someone who I should not have married was that our marriage lasted 10 months. And there I was, pushing 29 years old, brand new baby. I put my house up for rent because I wasn't in the mental or emotional space to deal with, employment, home, divorce, postpartum, brand new baby, single mom, and doing all these life changes all at once. And so I moved back in with my mom. And that was what started, because I'm like, Jazz, you have to make better decisions, because it's not just you anymore. You can't just be out here doing reckless stuff, because it's not just you. And it is what it is. I think I can't necessarily speak for anyone else, but in my 20s, I did some pretty reckless things. So I can laugh about it now, but back then it wasn't a laughing matter. But in my 20s, I did some I did some unwise things, and it was like, you got to do, but you already know what to do. You need to do it, And so part of that was, of course, trying to lose the baby weight. And I found a Black Girls Run chapter in my neighborhood, and I just started going out to run with them in the morning. That's when my 5 a.m. workout started, because they would meet at like 4:50, and we would run from 5 to 6 every morning. And that's what started it, having the discipline to get up every morning to meet them, because I didn't want to be left and running by myself. And that was my way to release the stress. It was therapeutic for me because I was dealing with postpartum at the time. And there would be times at that time I would be on the pavement running, and I would just cry. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. But I would just cry it out on the pavement. And it was therapeutic for me. And so it helped me and I started therapy at that time as well. So it helped me I went through a divorce, but it helped me to get my life together. Me having my daughter and having that experience, I'm like, stop playing around. Like, you're not getting any younger. Now you got somebody to take care of. And if you continue doing the stupid stuff you've been doing, you're going to mess her up. And I had to shift. It was an immediate shift. So that's really what started.
That is so good. Like, I'm over here on the edge of my seat, because literally, what you basically described is a situation you went through that no one would, like, most people would be like, oh, that's horrible, right? But like, it sounds like you learned priceless lessons from it. And I love how you've processed it in a way that won't mess up your future. I
will never be here ever again in my life. I said, this will never happen.
Yes. Oh man, that's so
God. I was like, God has created me for so much more than what I've allowed myself to become. God has created me for so much more, to do so much more than what I'm doing. I was wasting time, and wasting energy, just focused on the wrong things and focused on the wrong people.
Yes. I love that. And I love that you talk about how waking up and physically running helped you to get your mind together. So now I have to ask, how did you grow in wisdom tangibly? What was that process like? Because I know a lot of people who attend church, they do that, but they're not growing in wisdom necessarily. So I believe that there is an active process to grow in wisdom and knowledge and understanding. What did your process of growing in wisdom look like? What were you listening to? What were you reading? What were those habits like?
So I used to fast in college, but it was like just food fast. But it was at this point in time where I really started doing a spiritual fast. So at the time, I had started back going to church. And so at the time, my church was doing this fast called Do 42, or it was a 40-day fast. And then it evolved to do 42. So the 40-day fast was where you fast for 40 days from the 7 deadly sins. So there were 7 things that you had to do. Like you couldn't overeat. You had to stop eating at each meal before you were full. You had to get up in the morning every day and read the word and pray for half your age in minutes daily. This is what started that. Yeah, it was like you had to, matter of fact, I had it down here, but you had to get up every morning for 40 days and read the Bible and pray for half your age in minutes daily. So it was just like, so I am 37 right now. So even now I get up in the morning and I read my word for 10 minutes and I pray for 10 minutes. I set my timer. And then before I go to bed, I read and pray for 10 minutes. So it's 40 minutes total. It's what, 10 minutes. I do 10, but it could be 20 all together. Yeah. So it'd be like 5 minutes praying, 5 minutes reading the Bible, and then another 5 and 5 in the evening for a total of 20 minutes for the whole day, half your age in minutes daily. But I just do 10 in the morning, 10 each in the morning, 10 each at night, because it helps me. So you have to do that. You can't complain. So so it helped me to monitor my speech. And anytime you complained, you had to verbally counter the complaint with something that you were grateful for about the situation. And so it was just different things like that. Like you had to do something for someone every day. So you had to show us act of kindness, and you couldn't show an act of kindness to the same person in a week more than twice. So it was I would get little Capri Suns. I would go to the store and get things I could buy in bunches, bananas, Capri Suns, boxes of raisins. And I would just give them out to coworkers at work, just giving people small things. I mean, you can buy someone's lunch, but I would just get small items and just give them out. So that's what got me. It helped me to be disciplined and helped me to focus on improving myself. And, you couldn't get angry. In order to counter lust, because lust is one of the 7 deadly sins. If you were married, and I wasn't married at the time, but it's like, if you were married, you couldn't speak to anybody that you had any type of previous engagements with. You know, like some people, friends. No, you can't talk to them. And if you were single, you had to abstain for that period of time. And it was suggested that you stop talking to, someone that you were, if you were sexually involved with them, that you stop. But I wasn't dating anyone. So it was a fast to like really help you become better. And so, And so after I did that, I was just like, wow, I feel better. And so I just kept doing it. And it's still a part of my daily life. And so that was the 40-day. You can find the details at 40day.com. And then there was a do 42, which was those same spiritual elements, but now with the dietary component, where you basically had to go without meat and do steamed and raw vegetables for 42 days. And that helped you to shed down. So it was like a spiritual system I thought was absolutely amazing. And because it really helped you to get your heart and your mind and your spirit together. So I was doing that at the time. And that focus on me helped me to not focus on other people and how I felt portrayed and all. It helped me to get me together, you know? And I think that was the key. And so I would read a lot of spiritual based books and personal growth and development books, and anything that was just really feeding my spirit and soul, and staying away from toxic stuff. Back then, though, I was watching Scandal every Thursday, though. That was my thing.
Yeah. You gotta have a little something. No, that's so good. I really appreciate you breaking it down like that, and even sharing that resource. You said 40day.com? Yes,
40day.com. Well, that's the old website. The updated website is Do 42. They put everything on do42.com now.
Do42.com. That's really good, because I want everyone listening to understand, because you all may be like, well, where's the strategy and why are you asking her these questions? most people who I know, like I've interviewed hundreds of people at this point, literally hundreds. I'm not even exaggerating, like hundreds of people. And every 7 and 8 figures speaker or business owner that I've talked to spends some prolonged period of time educating themselves on personal mastery.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like because it's not glamorous and it's not, build a business 6 figures in 6 days, people aren't always talking about it. But the best questions you can ask someone who is successful doing things that you appreciate and value are about their habits, their discipline, how they think, so that you can make a real determination as to whether you're willing to do what it takes to achieve success. I just don't know anyone who has no personal mastery that's really doing it out here in a way that I want to do it. Because personally, guys, I don't believe people are successful just because they have money. It matters to me how you get it too.
Yeah.
That's why I ask these questions, because I like to see where the values are and if there's alignment there. And so I appreciate you sharing that. It's a critical piece to this.
Oh, absolutely. Because that same level of discipline, consistency, and resilience, like there were times where I would mess up, but I'm like, okay, I have to keep going. And that same level of consistency, commitment, and resilience, I found, is what has sustained me in business. Because there have been times I've messed up. There have been times things haven't gone the way that I've wanted them to go. But it's like, hey, you've done this. Get back to it. And also, I think that the work that I did on myself back then and still do helps me to reflect on myself as a leader, because it got me into the habits of reflecting on myself instead of blaming others. Like when you're in leadership, when you're growing businesses, you can't look at other people and talk about what they do and don't do, because everything is a reflection of you. So it's all the time. What can I do to make this better? What can I do to improve my team? Okay, this team member isn't getting it. What can I do to help support them? Now, if they continue to mess up, of course, then changes have to be made. But how can I continue to nurture them and support them and help them grow and develop? So it really got me into a space of self-reflection, self-assessment, and accountability.
Yeah.
Which is all important, when you are growing a business.
Yeah. And you brought up a great point. Team building, which when you talk about growth and how you've grown, the team is another piece of it, that you've grown in your team. And she made an Instagram post. I don't know when this will air. It may not be relevant, but like she made a post about accountability that literally encouraged me to do a live on it. It was so good. And one of the things I tell people is you have to be able to afford the salary, obviously, whatever they need to be paid, but also the cost of their mistakes. You can't hire people thinking they're going to be perfect. You should assume they're going to make mistakes and give them room to make mistakes. That way they can make decisions. Otherwise, you're going to have to be the main person making all decisions. So at what point in your business, revenue-wise, did you start growing a team? And are you set up with contractors or full-time employees? And how was all of that? Like, how did that help you to grow to where you're at now and build your 7-figure business?
Right. So it was at the end of this is 2021. I'm trying to backtrack. It was, hold on. I'm trying to do some math. I want to say that it was coming into, goodness, I'm losing track of time. I want to say that it was around the middle of 2020, like right around the pandemic. Going into fall of 2020, where I realized I was kind of stuck at that 250K mark, and I knew that I wanted to get to 1 million, and I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I also found myself stressed out because I was doing a lot of different things that I knew that I should not have been doing. Like I was stretched thin because I had coaching clients, and then of course, you have the admin side, you have the tech side. And so I had a contractor, helping me on the tech end, but there was so much else to be done that I was just like, I can't I can't continue to do this. Like, I'm a mom, I have kids, like, and it was the most difficult thing for me to hire because I had hired in the past and had been burned.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was scared of making another mistake. I was feeling in the beginning, I was feeling like I don't feel like I do a good job with hiring. And really it was just that I wasn't following a specific process. And so once I put a hiring process in place, and once I put a training process in place and an onboarding process in place, then a lot of the problems that I experienced in the past, I haven't had to deal with. So a lot of the mistakes that I made were just from not knowing, figuring things out along the way, and then, being too scared to make a move until it's just like, okay, well, if you don't do something different, you're going to be stuck right here where you are, and so I knew that in order to grow, I couldn't do it by myself. And so I have a team of contractors right now, because I really haven't had to hire full time. But going into 2022, I'm going to be making my first full time hire.
Nice.
You know how you can start feeling the shifts? You can start feeling this. It's just like, okay, I know that I need more of this. So I have to start making the transition to that,
Yeah. And I remember before we hired full time, I felt like it was very scary. But then when we did it, it wasn't that bad. Like it is more expensive than I thought a little bit with all the taxes and things, but it wasn't that bad. And I appreciate that. One, it's a huge accomplishment to have built a business to the size that you built it to with a contracted team. And it says a lot about your leadership. But I'm sure there are people listening who are like, I too am a little scared about hiring because I've made bad hires in the past. And guys, like literally every company pretty much hires someone to help with retention. Every large mega company. I train speakers, so that's what Loxley all speak about. Like it's retaining people, it's because it's not easy. And I do think we sometimes in the online internet space can glamorize hiring and make it seem like it's easier than it is. But it's a very, very, very complicated thing. And when I first started, I don't know if you dealt with this, but I felt like, well, if people are leaving and this isn't working out and I don't have these systems and I'm just not a good leader and I just need to figure out how to do it without employees. Like, I don't know if it ever got that bad for you, but I literally remember having that thought. And then I went to work the next day and I tried to do all the things and I was like, oh, I literally can't. Like, it's impossible. So
mine was, I questioned myself.
Yeah.
So I had hired someone and they ended up stealing from me. They ended up stealing from me. And there was a situation of where they were sharing another coach's. She was supposed to be mapping out some SOPs, and she ended up taking some SOPs from another coach and giving them to me. And I was friends with the coach, and I didn't know until I was looking through them. Something was like, check these documents, like really check these documents. And so I was checking the documents and saw the other coach's name. I was like, oh, so I'm like literally paying her to create things for me, but she's copying and pasting them from someone else. So it was an entire mess. And then, then there was some things with some money that she had done. And so it was just an entire mess. And, when I confronted her about it, when I tried to confront her about it, she started dodging me. And so I just sent an email because I was tired of being given the runaround. Like, you haven't done this ever before. So I sent an email, and it was a lot of gaslighting going on. Like, she was like, well, I sent her an email letting her know I was going to discontinue services. And then she sent one back saying, oh, well, I'm glad we're on the same page because I wrote an email and scheduled it out saying it was just like, how you going to quit after I fire you? Like, and I was like, am I crazy?
How you going to quit?
So I was like, legit asking myself, like, am I crazy? Like, there's something wrong with me. Something wrong with me.
That sounds like
and I felt like a horrible leader. I was like, is my leadership this awful? And like, really? And I realized that, no, Jasmine, it wasn't you. It wasn't you, because especially after I heard of other people I've spoken to other people who work with this person and had similar experiences. And I said, okay, it's not you, but that's also what pushed me to put a system in place for hiring. That's when okay, I have to have a hire. So the same way they hired me on my 9 to 5, that's the process that I need to go through when I'm hiring. You have an interview process. You have a second or third interview process. Let's see some work samples. Let's see how you execute on this. And then we'll extend you an offer, and then we're going to train you for 90 days.
Yeah, and it's a trial period. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Like, it's fine. Like that 30-day trial, I'm like, all right, let's figure it out. And I do think I had similar thoughts because my husband, my husbands are always, I don't know if your husband's like this. My husband's always checking me, okay? So it's like, even if I wanted to be like,
I think that's a husband thing.
Wrong, like he'd be like, because one day I was in the car, I was frustrated. I think he gets, of course, husbands get frustrated when you're frustrated. He's like, why do you keep hiring these people? And I'm in the car complaining, and he looks at me and he goes, have you ever asked yourself? He's like, have you ever asked yourself why anyone would think that they could not be excellent and work with you? Like, what is it about the process? He was like, because I know you're super anal. Everything has to be not just good, but like great. So what is it about the process that is allowing people who have low standards to work here? Like, is it the salary? Is it the application process? And it was at that moment that I was like, okay, I may not be a bad leader. I am in therapy. I do want to make sure I'm always developing in leadership and developing interpersonally, but it is my fault that I don't have things in place for people. Because the other question he asked was, would you work somewhere that didn't have certain processes when you were an employee? He was like, because you was real bougie, so you only worked at the best places and all this stuff. And I'm like, dang, I wouldn't. And he's like, okay, so we have to get these things together. And it is like like a gut punch. You're like, dang, this is my fault.
Right.
But it was good so that you can at least, you care enough to fix it, But I appreciate you sharing that, because I know people think like, it's so amazing. And your recent brand shoot was so good. So it's good to hear hear the process.
I think it's really unfair for people to glamorize hiring a team.
Yes.
You need to build a team, and you don't say anything else about building a team. You say nothing else about the responsibility that comes with that, the responsibility for paying, for training, for doing what you have to do, for supporting personally as well, for doing what you have to do as a leader. Yeah. Like having a team doesn't make you a boss, especially when you can't keep the team that you have.
Yep, it's true. And really realizing, for me, people are motivated by different things. Everyone's not motivated by money. There are people that may work with you because your environment is good. And now we have our employees, and we have a household employee because we have full-time care for our daughter that works in our home. So it's just, I don't really think it's possible to build anything really big without a team. I do think it's possible to have a successful business without employees, because we've interviewed a lot of people that do multi-seven figures and they don't have employees. So that's just a business structure decision, but you do need some help, and you have to figure out how to have it, because you can't go back to doing everything yourself. It's just not.
There is no going back. I'm trying to hire more people for other things.
Yeah.
There is no going back.
Yeah, there's no going back. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's so good. This has been such a good discussion. We have to get into publishing. So I have your book, Published and Paid. It was phenomenal. Such a good read, a quick read, and it was very actionable. Like, you can literally go to where you're at in the publishing process for your book and get the information that you need. So what was the genesis for the book for you?
So I wanted to give people a valuable resource that they could use to write, publish, and launch their book. So first and foremost, after my research, there were not a lot of books on the market written by women of color about the writing and self-publishing process. So I knew that I already had a lot of experience in this space, from performing it for others for some time back when I used to do the done for you. I don't do done for you anymore. And I needed to package this information in a book because, of course, I do have programs that teach in detail how to do it, provide support, And we teach how to launch and all of that. But I needed something that could be given to the masses. And so I reflected on a lot of the books that I've read about writing and publishing, and I wanted to fill in the gap. And that gap being, I wanted something that was short, sweet, very easy to understand, easy to follow, and would help you get results. In my personal opinion, a lot of the writing and self-publishing books on the market are very cumbersome. And for someone that's new to the process or that has a goal of accomplishing the process, they give you all these steps and all these other things to do, and it can just feel very overwhelming. And so I just wanted to create a resource that people could depend on to say, hey, you know what? This helped me get it done. Matter of fact, my husband read my book and wrote his book.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Because he didn't want me like we talk about husbands, he didn't want me coaching him and sitting right. So I said, here's the book. There you go.
That is so funny because I feel like husbands need their own club, because that's exactly how my husband is. So I'm like, you want me to teach you this? And it's because we work together. So it gets even more complicated. So I'm like, how am I supposed to do reviews?
Right. And see, my husband wanted to share his story. He didn't want to turn his book into a business. So the book was perfect for him because my programs are more tailored to coaches, consultants, who want to write a book to grow their business. Yeah. Whereas the book is more so for people who just want to share their story. They want to put it out, they want an easy way to get it out. And that's what he wanted to do. So it helped him to do that.
Yeah, no, I really, I like that. I like that. And I saw your husband was writing a book, so I'm gonna have to get that when that comes out. But that's great. So in terms of how you now work with people, if there's someone listening who's a speaker, a lot of our audience are speakers or they're interested in speaking. Some of them even already have a book. What does your program do for that audience? The speakers, people who already have a book, who are just interested in maybe promoting it, like it's out, but it's not selling. Like what should they do?
Honestly, for most people, we go back to the drawing board because most people who come through my program have either written a book before or have tried to write a book, but they weren't getting sales. And it always comes down to the foundation. Like I speak to a lot of speakers who already have books, but their books are on totally different topics than what they're speaking, training, or presenting on. So there's no way for you to take this book with this ambiguous title that's about your personal story and tie it into your professional speaking or your coaching. I think that we need a mindset shift there. So just saying, I wrote a book, that's not good enough. Like when you want to leverage your book for speaking, the book that you write needs to be in alignment or related to whatever your expertise is, which is that you're speaking and training about. And so we help our students to strategically write a short book that's going to have different marketing points in it so that your your readers can go from being a reader to a customer and from a customer to a client in some of your back end programs. So that's the difference between, my Author Made Easy Bootcamp and the book, So Published and Paid is teaching you how to do exactly what it says, write, self-publish, launch your book in 90 days or less. Whereas working with us in the program, we're helping you to strategically write a short book and take you through the writing, self-publishing, marketing, and launching process to help you write a book and leverage and launch the book so that it grows your business, so that you can turn your readers into customers.
Yeah, I love that. I like the distinction. I definitely like the distinction. And I know a lot of people do have books, and the title is so important. The title it's critically important. I mean, like your book, Published and Paid, like we know what we're talking about here. My book is Speak Your Way to Cash. We know what we're talking about here. Our next book that we're working on is The Currency of Confidence. And that's really for our corporate audience. But we like the title is critical, and then the subtitle is also critical. So
Critical.
Can you talk a little bit about that? How important is your subtitle, and what do you do? We'll start with how important is your subtitle?
Someone should read your subtitle and immediately know who the book is for, whether or not the book is for them, and they need to know what they are going to learn in your book. That's how critical the subtitle is. So if I ask you what your book is about and you're rambling, you don't know, and your readers don't know. The audience that you're targeting, they don't know either. Like you should, if I say what's the title of your book and what is it about, I should read your title and your subtitle and immediately know who you're targeting, what you're talking about, and the end result by the time the reader concludes the book. If your title and subtitle do not explain and describe that, you really need to go back to the drawing board. You know, if I think I was speaking to someone a few weeks ago, and I can't remember what their subtitle was, but their subtitle, it was something to the degree of From Pain to Purpose. Like, we don't know what that is. What do you mean from pain to purpose? Who were you talking to? What are you talking about? And so if you're a coach, you're a speaker, you're a consultant, that is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
It's not going to cut it.
Yeah, it needs to be clear. I remember our first book, The Law School Hustle, how to get the grades, get the job, and get the check. Like, it was literally like, that was the whole thing. And it's such a small book, to your point. Like, it was a short and mighty book, but it literally, we've had over 15 law students read it, transfer to the top law schools in the country, graduate, go on to practice law. The ones that have told me, because honestly, it sells on Amazon. I don't push it a lot anymore, but the transformation is really clear. Like, it's really clear. And I think that also plays a role in the title for your business too. Like, it's really important that people know what you do based on the brand, the title of your book.
It all ties into branding, because if your book is going to take your reader from reader to customer and from customer to client, then there should be a streamline between your book, your signature speaking topic, your coaching program, course, or whatever it is you offer. It all should be thematically related.
Yeah.
If you're speaking, if your book is on one topic, you're speaking on something else, and then you try to go off in left field and create a coaching program or a course about something totally unrelated to the book or the speaking, there's not going to be any tie-in. It's a funnel.
Yeah.
There's a funnel. So, like, for those of you all who are familiar with doing online business, you have your lead magnet where, you give someone something for free, then you'll have a way to turn them into a customer with something that's low cost, maybe a workshop, it could be a book, and then you have a way to turn them into a client. Everything has to be related. So your book works with the same type of process.
Yep. That is so good. And I hope all the authors are listening. And you can repackage your book. That's the great thing about self-publishing. You can totally repackage it and reposition it in whatever way that you need to. Also, I know you have an event coming up. It's September now, so I know you have an event coming up soon. Tell us about the event. Are you calling everyone to attend six-figure storytellers? Because I've seen the branding on it. Like, what can they expect? What can people who are attending the event expect to learn? And who is it for?
Absolutely. So, yes, Six-Figure Storyteller Live is October 21st through 23rd. So that's a Thursday through Saturday. So this is an event. It's a live event for coaches, consultants, for professional service providers who want to learn the foundations of writing a high quality book and using their book to generate their first or next six figures. So on day one, we're going to talk all about six-figure storytelling mindset and writing strategy. So some of those mindset strategies that we talked about earlier, Ashley, the things that like really help you to be successful. And I'm going to say this. I encounter a lot of people who are filled with pride.
Mm.
Y'all, if you want to grow, you're going to have to let the pride go.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be coachable. You're going to have to let go of this I know it all mentality, nitpicking. You got to stop. You just have to stop. So I don't know what brought that on, but I was
it's a lot.
led to say that. Yeah. When you want to grow, whether it's your first 6 figures, your next 6 figures to 7 figures, you have to be coachable. And you have to get out of perfectionism, because there's no way where you can be so consumed with dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's that you don't go into action.
Yep.
Okay. Mindset. 6-figure storyteller mindset and writing strategy. So going back to learning, what are those elements? Like, what type of research needs to take place before I write this book? How do I clarify my audience? How do I communicate who this book is for and what it's going to help the reader accomplish, so that moving forward, when you create your content, it all goes back to that central theme and that main core focus. So that's what we're doing on day 1. Day 2 is all about 6-figure marketing and branding strategies, how to show up authentically in the online space to build your brand, how to communicate your messaging, like understanding the type of language to use to attract the people that you want and to repel the people that you don't want, and even identifying who that is you want to work with and who it is you don't need to work with in order for you to reach your goals. Yeah. And day 3 is all about monetization, how to make money with your book. So one of the things that I love about the conference is that it's not just going to be me teaching and giving strategy, but all the attendees will have time right then and there to actually implement and work on the assets that I teach as well. So it's a teaching and an implementation conference all in one. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's going to be dope. That's going to be really, really good. I'm excited about that. And you've spoken at Speak Your Ready Cash Live, so I know how in depth you go, how detailed you are. And that was a while ago. So one thing I'll tell everyone, whenever you meet someone that continues to grow, watch out. Not in a bad way, in a good way. Because people sometimes, I think they miss the legends in their midst. And I'm really big to give people their flowers while they're here. One thing I really appreciate about you is how you've grown over the years. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal because when you grow, your teaching elevates. That's one thing that I notice in myself and in other coaches that I work with. So I know it's going to be a great experience, guys. If you're an author, you're looking to become an author, you're trying to grow in that way, please check out her event. It's going to be good content. And for everyone else, make sure you get the book. Make sure you get published and paid. It is very easy to get. I got mine in like a day on Amazon. So you'll get it. You'll be able to get through it. And you'll be able to take immediate action. Because I was in the editing process when I read it. And I was like, I went right to the editing chapter. I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And I think one thing you said in there was like, editing is not your job. It's theirs. Like, let your editor do it. And that helped me a lot. I still reread it a ton of times. But that did help to get the ball rolling because the editing process is pretty intense.
It definitely can be. It definitely, editing is my least favorite part. But like I said, it's a necessary evil.
It really is. It really is. Like
this is my least favorite part. But once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, once it's done, it's done, and it's out there forever. So I appreciate the time you spent with us, Jasmine. Tell my audience where they should go to learn more about the event, learn more about your book, and about working with you and your services.
Absolutely. So it's absolutely been a pleasure, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me on. Guys, you can come visit my website, JasmineWomack.com. All the information is there, along with a few freebie items. If you'd like more information about 6-Figure Storyteller live experience, you can visit sixfigurestorytellerlive.com and come hang out with me on Instagram. I'm always on Instagram at the Jasmine Womack. Right now, my stories, I'm sharing my marathon training. So I signed up for a marathon and I'm like, today was day one. So come hang out with me over there as we go on this journey for the next 20 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining in. I'm seeing all the comments. LaDonna's here. Glad to see you guys together. Thank you so much for joining live. For those of you listening to this on the podcast, depending on when you heard it, you know, I don't know, you gotta go and make sure you take action fast, guys. Okay. Her event's in October. Speaker Ready Cash Live is in November 4th through the 6th, virtual or in person. So get your ticket. You all have, as of today's date of this recording, 16 days left to get your ticket before the event. We definitely want to make sure that we see you there. So speakers, thought leaders looking to develop their 5- and 6-figure corporate speaking proposals, we want to see you in the room, okay? So take advantage of these resources. And remember, guys, if you remember nothing else from this episode, develop wisdom, develop discipline. It will change your life. All right, guys? You all have a good one. Thank you again, Jasmine, for joining us. Make sure you all follow her and support everything she has going on.